We are back. Sam Seder on the Majority Report on the phone. It is a great pleasure to welcome back to the program. It's been too long. Jimmy Dore of the Jimmy Dore Show, of TYT, and Jimmy, what's your website?
My website is jimmydorecomedy.com, and you spell Dore, D-O-R-E.
There you go. Thanks so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Sam. I just want to say to everybody, I want to pre-apologize for this conversation.
I already apologized for this conversation. We both apologized. Let's just wrap it up now and just.
Okay.
It's a
great way to start off a segment.
I know, folks, you're really gonna want to miss this one. I mean, let's ease into it a little bit because you and I are going to have a little bit of an argument, and it's one that people really seem to be looking forward to. I have to say, I don't know that we've had this level of anticipation in a long time for a guest. But let's. Well,
I've been married for 10 years, and I'm used to letting people down. So this is going to be one of those.
You and I, exactly the same. I think it's been 12 years for me now, and
okay.
Constantly upsetting. I'm not going to say who in that matter. It's my wife. But let's just before we get to the big bone of contention, just give me let's talk a little bit about West Virginia and more broadly speaking, the impact that you think Sanders has had in running in 2016.
Well, first of all, West Virginia, Bernie won West Virginia. He flipped the state that went for Hillary in 2008. So I think it's time for him to get out.
Exactly.
So that's. I mean, he's doing that. What I think is, it's surprising to me to see what Hillary said about the Medicare buy-in. I did not expect her to even go that far. I didn't expect it to come up. I didn't expect her to concede anything to the left. In fact, because she was being pretty dismissive, I thought she was. In fact, there was an article I read by Katie Halper. She said, Hillary won't even give me lip service anymore. And so this is really surprising to see her do this about the Medicare buy-in, so that's good. So I think that's the effect he's having. I think the bigger effect is, though, Sam, it's not really about Senator Sanders in a sense. It's about that there was this group of people who felt this way, which is most Americans, I think, feel like that their political process no longer represents the voters. It only represents the donors. And so he's kind of like just tapped into that. So he's tapped into the movement that I think kind of started with Howard Dean and kind of got blossomed under Occupy Wall Street. And so here he is, right? And the problem was that we had centrist Democrats that split the natural opposition to neoliberalism, right? So when Occupy Wall Street happened, Barack Obama was president. So you had half the people out there going, well, whatever Barack Obama's doing on this, I'm going to be with him. And so he wasn't doing anything on it. In fact, he gave the okay to go crack the heads of peaceful protesters all across the country. So that's where I'm coming from. I think that there was already a movement. Senator Sanders is a person with real power. He's a senator who gave voice to it, and now there's a real awakening happening, I think, politically. The fact that Hillary did this on Medicare, I think, is a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, and to be fair to Clinton, I mean, she in debating Lazio in 2000, she called for a buy-in at age 55, a Medicare buy-in. I mean, this was a popular idea. I think even Bill Clinton brought it up in the late 90s. But I think the idea that she has brought this idea back in the campaign. I mean, she didn't start the campaign talking about this. I think it's definitely a function of Bernie Sanders being in the race. And it's interesting, as you're talking about Sanders running on issues of sort of a process issues on some level of our electoral process being bought. When he started, I don't think that was the primary focus. I think wealth inequality was. And I mean, for a while we had Lawrence Lessig, who was attempting to challenge, to enter the race. They wouldn't let him in debate. I think they should have. But he was running because he didn't feel that Bernie Sanders was talking about that enough at that time. And in some ways, I think Lessig made Sanders bring that up more to keep Lessig out of the race. I mean, because I remember a time where I think, like, the Lessig was getting some. I sort of felt like Bernie Sanders was already talking about that, but Lessig certainly didn't.
Yeah, Larry Lessig, along with Leak and Chafee, are going to team up to produce some static electricity for a sweater later today. So.
Exactly, but
so I think that was the problem, and it's amazing. On a side note about Bernie Sanders, his campaign style, he does everything wrong. Right? He yells a lot. He ends his sentence in negatives, and he uses the wrong hand gestures, right? So Bill Clinton taught everybody the right hand gestures is that thumb move, and
right.
You're supposed to put your hands upside down. We all know that from the TED Talk. But he does it. He does the opposite. He does it over. He does it like an old Jewish guy calling for more lemons at a deli. I need some more lemons.
Right, exactly.
And so so it's just funny to see how far he's gotten with doing all the wrong things.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been incredibly impressive. What do you think his chances are of winning now? Of winning the nomination. Obviously, he's still mathematically in it, but I mean, give us a sense of when you break it down. What does he need to do from here on out in terms of winning, and where are you on the question of whether or not you think superdelegates should follow the pledge delegates or not?
Well, obviously he has a very narrow path to the nomination, right? But again, look at this is more like we've said all along. This is more about this movement and these ideas taking hold than it is about a single person. I think Bernie would say the same thing,
Right.
and the fact that now people are talking about income inequality. People have realized how bought and even me, right? This election cycle has really made my jaw drop several times, right? I knew that we needed to get money out of politics, but I didn't have any idea how corrupt stuff was. And Bernie really has helped, I think, bring this stuff to the light of people who are looking and paying attention. Now, there's a lot of people who aren't looking, who aren't paying attention, and I call those Hillary voters. So to me, it's like somebody made the point. He said that we're watching the people versus the O.J. Simpson trial, and they didn't care whatever the prosecution said. They were going to nullify it because of the of decades of racist cops in L.A. So they were going to jury nullify it. Somebody said that the Hillary voters are doing the same thing. They're ignoring a lot of the evidence against her because they feel they need to break that glass ceiling. They feel like this oppression of women, and they want to break through it. I think that's a good theory. I hadn't heard it before, and it seems, because to me it is mind-boggling, right? It's like you're a Democrat, you consider yourself a progressive or a lefty or whatever, and you're going to vote the most anti-lefty candidate we've had in a long time. By the way, why aren't people more upset with the Democratic Party for giving us such a horribly flawed candidate? The person with the second highest negatives in America, that's the person we're going to – it's like, really, you couldn't find somebody who, A, could unite people, or B, inspire people, right? So here we are. She still doesn't have a message. She almost has the whole thing locked up. Still no message. There's no reason to vote for Hillary except I'm with her. That seems pretty weird.
Yeah, I have definitely noted that. I think that there is a lack of a programmatic message. I mean, her message is that I have a great resume, which I think she does, and that she, in terms of positions, and I can get it done. It's just that the it is sort of not clear, which is a bit of a problem from my perspective. But why? Who do you think? Who should have run? Like, let's transition into this. So Bernie has a very narrow path. I think it's like it requires, if everything goes right up until California, it requires him to win California by something like a 75% to 25% margin in terms of the popular vote, somewhere around there. And that's obviously very difficult to do.
Here comes Bernie!
What is going on in your house? I don't want to know. So as that's the case, and I know I've listened to you on you mentioned Katie Halper's show, and I've seen you on Young Turks talk about this. But give me a sense of what you're in California, obviously. I'm in New York. At the end of the day, how we're going to actually personally vote doesn't matter. But give me your because these are states which are fairly reliably blue. Give me your sense of what you of your position on this Bernie or bust, and talk about it in this sort of hypothetical sense. I mean, we know California it's an easy question, but there are other people living in swing states and states that it's unclear that could be in play because presumably it's going to be Trump. Give us your perspective on that.
Well, I would encourage all the people who still haven't voted in this primary to vote for Bernie Sanders, because pledging your vote to Hillary is foolish because you're giving all your leverage away, right? So if she knows she can count on your vote in the general, what is in it for her to move, right? If you promise to be a dutiful little Democrat and fall in line, you're not shaping the party. Establishment Democrats don't care about our little complaints about corruption, and especially if you say you're going to vote for them no matter what. So that's what I encourage all the people with the primaries left. Please go vote for Bernie Sanders, right? Because if you agree that the number one problem in our country today is money in politics, then that's the right vote.
Now,
and so
let me just see if I understand. You're saying two different things. I mean, and one is vote for Bernie in the primary, and I agree.
Right.
And so with that said, but are you saying that we shouldn't say that we're going to vote for whoever the Democratic nominee is, and a decent chance there's going to be Hillary Clinton at this point because that gives up our leverage?
Yeah, well, A, yes, tactically it's a mistake because it gives up our leverage, but B, it was Howard Dean who said in 2003, if you want young people to vote in this country, and if you want the 50% of adults over 30 to vote in this country who don't vote, then we better stand for something because that's why they're not voting. And so I think that's Hillary's biggest, or that's the sane world's biggest fear this general election, is that a lot of people will stay home because they can't bring themselves to vote for any more of this neoliberalism, which is really just conservatism that's pro-abortion. So that's really I don't see how you could vote for this thing that the whole reason you got involved in politics anyway is to get this out. We're issue voters, right? We're not person voters. We're issue. So as soon as the candidate that represents your main issue gets out, you're going to just flip and vote the thing that you've been fighting against. That doesn't make any sense. In fact, I think it hurts my case. I'll make the case. No, I don't know. Sam, I'm not as smart as you guys. I went to bad schools, and I was a C student, so you'll probably beat me on this debate.
I was a C student, too, and I didn't go to
Don't try
great
to take
schools.
my thing. That's my thing, Sam. I'm the dumb guy.
C plus.
Okay. So I feel like Howard Dean felt back in 2003, right? So if we want to energize people, we want to get people out to vote in this country. Right now we're putting up the two most hated people in the country to vote. So I say you can't vote for Hillary. And here's my theory, right? People are afraid, well, oh, my God, what if Donald Trump becomes president? My whole thing is if Donald Trump becomes president, you have all the Democrats united with the independents and purple state Republicans to oppose Donald Trump. If Hillary Clinton is president, you have you're going to have to fight half the Democrats, half the independents, all the Republicans, and Hillary.
Now, wait, when you say that, like, okay, so Donald Trump gets elected in November, and then who are we fighting with now? I mean, he gets elected obviously with by whom? By Republicans and presumably some Democrats, right? And independents.
I don't know if Democrats will vote for Donald Trump. I'm not saying to vote for Donald Trump.
Right.
I'm saying we can't vote for neoliberalism anymore and hope to change our system. And it's like people who don't think our system is broken enough. I mean, our system is way more broken than people understand.